Quick test. Why did you click on this video? You probably have a reason. Curiosity. The algorithm suggested it. You're procrastinating. But here's the real question. Did you decide to click? Or were you always going to click the moment it appeared in your feed? And how would you even tell the difference? Philosophers have argued about free will for centuries, and they can't agree on an answer. One camp says you're nothing but particles following the laws of physics. Every choice you think you're making was actually determined at the Big Bang. Your brain is just atoms bumping into other atoms in a chain of cause and effect stretching back 14 billion years. In this view, you've never made a free choice in your life. You're an extraordinarily complex machine executing programming written into the universe's initial conditions. The other camp points to quantum mechanics. At the smallest scales, particles don't behave deterministically. There's genuine randomness in how they act. An electron can randomly go left or right, and nothing in prior states of the universe determines which way it goes. Doesn't that break the deterministic chain? Doesn't that give us freedom? Not really. Here's the problem. Randomness isn't freedom either. If a quantum fluctuation randomly makes one of your neurons fire differently, that's not you choosing anything. That's just the universe rolling dice. Philosopher Daniel Dennett and neuroscientist Sam Harris both make this point. Adding randomness to a deterministic system doesn't give you more freedom. It just makes the system unpredictable. You don't control random quantum events any more than you control deterministic physical laws. So we're trapped. Determinism says your choices are inevitable. Randomness says your choices are arbitrary. Neither one gives you actual control. If neither determinism nor randomness can ground free will, what possibly could? Maybe we've been looking for free will at the wrong scale. You're not a particle, you're a pattern. Specifically, you're roughly 86 billion neurons working together in an extraordinarily complex network. And here's something important about complex systems. When many simple things combine in the right way, entirely new properties emerge that didn't exist in the individual parts. Take water. A single H2O molecule isn't wet. Wetness is a property that emerges when billions of water molecules interact as a liquid. You can examine one molecule as closely as you want, study every atom, and you'll never find wetness there. But get enough of them together, and wetness is undeniably real. The same thing happens with consciousness. One neuron isn't conscious. It's just an electrically excitable cell that fires or doesn't fire based on inputs from other cells. But when 86 billion of them wire together in the intricate architecture of a human brain, something new emerges: a mind, subjective experience, the feeling of being someone. This is called emergence, and it suggests that free will might exist at the level of your whole brain making decisions, even if the individual neurons composing that brain are just following physics. You can't find a personality by looking at one neuron. You can't find intentions or goals or preferences in individual cells. Those things exist only at the level of the entire network. So what happens at the brain level when you make a decision? Your brain isn't a single unified processor. It's more like a collection of specialized regions that handle different aspects of decision-making and constantly communicate with each other. When you face a choice, multiple systems activate simultaneously. The prefrontal cortex evaluates options and suppresses impulses. It's the part that can override your immediate desire to eat the entire cake by considering future consequences. The hippocampus pulls up relevant past experiences, similar situations you've been in before, and how they turned out. The amygdala flags emotional reactions. It marks certain options as threatening or rewarding based on gut-level feelings. Dozens of other regions contribute information about sensory input, motor planning, social context, and more. When you make a choice, it's not one neuron deciding. It's millions of neurons across multiple brain regions coordinating. Their collective activity produces the decision, and that process is you. Your decisions come from your unique neural history, the specific pattern of connections shaped by your experiences, your personality traits encoded in stable networks and neurotransmitter balances, your goals represented in frontal and limbic circuits. This means something important. Different people genuinely make different choices in the same situation because they have different neural histories driving their decision processes. Your brain is shaped by everything that's happened to you. When you choose, you're not choosing randomly, and you're not simply being pushed by external forces. You're choosing based on who you are, encoded as a pattern in your brain. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Even if your brain genuinely makes choices at the neural level, there's a serious problem. You're choosing from a menu someone else designed. Modern digital platforms, social media, streaming services, online stores collect enormous amounts of data about your behavior. They track what you click, how long you watch, what you buy, when you pause, what makes you scroll faster. Then they use that data to predict what you'll want next. And then they serve you those predictions as your options. 80% of what people watch on Netflix comes from the platform's recommendations. The company's algorithm analyzes your viewing history and the patterns of millions of other users, then suggests content you're statistically likely to watch. You feel like you're freely browsing and choosing, but your menu has been carefully curated. Amazon's product recommendations work the same way. Roughly 35% of the company's total sales come from these algorithmic suggestions. When you search for one item, the system immediately shows you related products based on what other people bought. The choices feel like yours, but they've been pre-selected to maximize the probability you'll click buy. Social media platforms curate your feed using algorithms that learn your preferences. They show you posts, videos, and articles optimized to keep you engaged, which usually means content that triggers strong emotional reactions. If you tend to engage with political outrage, the algorithm shows you more outrage. If you watch conspiracy theory videos, it recommends more conspiracy theories. The platform creates a feedback loop that reinforces whatever patterns get you to keep scrolling. This is sometimes called choice architecture, the deliberate design of how options are presented to influence which option you pick. The platforms aren't forcing you to do anything. They're not removing choices, they're just making certain choices more visible, more convenient, more appealing. And that's enough to systematically guide your behavior. Your brain uses autopilot mode for good reasons. Conscious deliberation is expensive. Thinking burns a huge amount of energy. So your brain offloads routine decisions to automatic systems. Pattern recognition, habit execution, quick reactions. These run without conscious effort because that's efficient. When you drive to work, you don't consciously think about every turn. When you brush your teeth, you don't deliberate about the motion. When you check your phone after hearing a notification, you're not making a careful decision, you're executing a learned response. This is normal and necessary. You can't consciously think through every action. But here's the vulnerability. Your autopilot systems can't distinguish between patterns you deliberately chose and patterns that were installed by your environment. Algorithms exploit this. They learn which triggers activate your automatic behaviors. Then they deploy those triggers. They learn that showing you a particular type of headline makes you click. They learn that starting the next episode automatically before you decide keeps you watching. They learn that showing you content similar to what you just engaged with makes you keep scrolling. You're not making conscious decisions anymore. You're executing patterns. The algorithm has learned your autopilot scripts and it's playing them on command. Netflix doesn't just recommend shows, it autoplays the next episode before you've decided whether to continue. Your brain's default is to keep watching rather than actively stop. Social media infinite scroll means there's no natural endpoint. You just keep going until something external interrupts you. The system has removed the decision points where you might have paused to choose deliberately. Your thumb keeps moving. Your eyes keep tracking. The next video loads. You're reacting, not deciding. Here's an unexpected twist in this story. Whether or not free will exists as a metaphysical fact, believing you have it produces measurably better outcomes. Psychologists have studied what happens when you manipulate people's beliefs about free will. In one experiment, researchers had participants read texts arguing that free will is an illusion, that all actions are predetermined by prior causes, and no one truly chooses anything. Then they compared those participants to a control group that hadn't been primed to disbelieve in free will. The results were striking. People who'd been primed to disbelieve in free will were more likely to cheat on a subsequent test. They behaved more aggressively. They were less helpful to others. The researchers' interpretation: if you internalize the idea that your choices don't matter because everything's predetermined, you feel less accountable for your actions. Your self-control weakens. Other studies found similar patterns. Weakening people's belief in free will reduces their self-discipline and makes them less likely to help others. Conversely, people who believe strongly in their own agency tend to show more proactive behavior. They set goals, they persist when things are difficult, they take responsibility for outcomes. Self-determination theory in psychology identifies autonomy, the feeling that your actions are self-chosen, as a basic human need. When people feel self-directed, they're happier and more motivated. When they feel like they're just responding to external pressures or internal compulsions they can't control, their well-being drops. You can't resolve the philosophical debate about free will from your living room. Determinism, emergence, quantum mechanics, consciousness. These are genuinely difficult problems that philosophers and scientists haven't settled after centuries of work. But you can answer a simpler, more practical question. Am I using whatever agency I have, or am I on autopilot in an environment engineered to keep me on autopilot? Practical freedom isn't about metaphysics. It's about awareness, reflection, and deliberate choice. It's the difference between reacting and responding. When you feel the urge to check your phone, pause. Ask yourself if you actually want to look at it, or if you're just executing a trigger. That gap between impulse and action, that's where choice happens. Most people never create that gap. They move straight from trigger to behavior without any conscious awareness in between. You can curate your environment. Delete apps that exploit your autopilot patterns. Turn off notifications that constantly interrupt and redirect your attention. Add friction to behaviors you want to reduce. Make it slightly harder to do the thing you're trying to stop doing. Remove friction from behaviors you want to increase. These aren't just willpower tricks. They're acknowledgments that your choices don't happen in a vacuum. Your environment shapes which options feel easy and which feel hard, and you can deliberately shape that environment instead of passively accepting the defaults that platforms give you. Notice when you're reacting versus when you're deciding. Reaction is automatic. Stimulus leads directly to response with no gap. Decision involves recognition of options, consideration of consequences, alignment with your values. Most of your day is probably reactions, and that's fine for routine tasks. The problem is when important parts of your life are on autopilot too. Even if determinism is true, even if every action you take is ultimately the inevitable result of prior causes, there's still a meaningful difference between acting from your reflective values and being systematically manipulated by external systems optimized to exploit your weaknesses. You might not be able to transcend causality, but you can choose which causes to expose yourself to. You can choose which patterns to strengthen and which to starve. You can choose whether to examine your automatic behaviors or just let them run. The question isn't whether you're an NPC in some cosmic sense, whether your consciousness is real or illusory, whether your choices are truly free or merely feel free. The question is whether you're acting like one, whether you're following scripts without awareness, reacting to engineered triggers without reflection, accepting the menu you're given without questioning who wrote it or why. The platforms will keep optimizing. The algorithms will keep learning. The choice architecture will keep getting more sophisticated. Your autopilot will keep executing patterns, but you can still ask, whose patterns are they? If you're still here, thank you for being part of this journey. Subscribe to stay tuned for what's next.